Hello and welcome to another tutorial with Tony from Vet to Tech. I hope you already read the title, but let me give you a use case to actually make sense to it. So say you're working on a VM and you happen to open port 22, for example, and you were called away and you forgot to close that port back up. Just any use case in where a port is left open, which happens all the time. So let's say that this does happen in real life, and while you were away, there was a brute force attack and it was successful. Well, the solution that I'll show you today will basically have an alert triggered if a brute force attack is successful. That alert would trigger a logic app. That logic app will extract that VM from its address space. It'll create an isolate address space, meaning it's just called isolate, but it will have an NSG attached to it and everything will be on deny. So it'll pretty much take that VM from its natural environment and it will pull it away and put it in a lockdown environment. Additionally, it will create a subnet within that new address space. It's called Azure Bastion. And for those who know about what Bastion is, it's just a way to access your VMs over the web browser over port 443. So this Bastion is created to eliminate the need to have to open the ports again to investigate this VM. Now instead you'll do it over HTTP safely. I got this solution from Nathan Swift. He created this, and I'll basically go, if you want to go side by side, pull this up. I'll have it on the links in the descriptions. But this is essentially what I'll be going over. I will do this solution. This explains it in more detail, but the purpose of this video is not explaining it into detail about what it says, but more like demonstrating this for you to have a visual explanation as well. That's just how I learn, and I figure that if I make a video, you'll learn just as good. The very first thing to notice is our prerequisites for testing. We need to have a security center standard tier. The environment that I'm working on, it's a free account, and they allow you to have a small trial or they cost you some money, but this is a free account. So it's not charging me, but just know that it might. Okay. So say you have Security Center enabled, then what we need to do is we need to head over to this link, and you'll have this link available to you. You'll have this article link as well on the description. So let's go ahead and jump right to that. You'll go to a GitHub account. All you need to do is deploy to Azure. Log in with the account that you desire to put this in. Alright, once you're logged in, this is what you'll get. Put it in the resource group that you want. Don't change the playbook name, just leave it at that. Change the username. Alright, and then also I'll just put the same for the admins. I agree and purchase. What this will do is this will create the logic apps and the necessary API connections for this logic app to work. So let's give it a minute and wait till it comes back. Alright, now we can go to resources, and we'll see that 3 things were created. You'll see that this ASC Alert Isolate was created and Office 365 Isolate was created. These 2 are API connections, so we need to do something here. The third thing that was created was the isolate this VM right here, this logic app, sorry. So what we need to do is quickly, let's go into these API connections. We need to go to edit API connections. This is good. And this one we'll hit authorize. We'll log in with our account and then hit save. Done. Okay, let me make sure here's good. All right, so we're good here. What we need to do next is to go to our security center, go to workflow automation, and here's where we'll create our workflow automation. So let's get some details. Okay, so make sure the alert name is exactly this, because this is what's going to trigger when it sees it on the alerts. And I will also give it the same name, but this won't take empty spaces, so we'll have to fix that. Okay, description, if you want to give it one, resource group. Leave this a threat detection alerts. There's two options. You want to leave it as threat detection alerts. Then all the severities, you want all of them, and then select your logic app, which it's not. There we go. Create. And now we have that automation workflow, but it says take up to about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause it and give it some time. Okay, so you'll see that this is the automation workflow that was created on your security center. So again, to reiterate, that was weird. When a brute force attack is successful on your security center, if that alert, if you see security alerts down here in your security center, if there was a successful brute force attack, it'll detect it and show here. It'll trigger this workflow, which will trigger this logic app. So I've gone ahead and I've already did a run to show you something. So we had a failed run on our logic app. And as you can see here, our logic app has a HTTP connectors name, and that's just the API calls that it's doing to update our subscription. But if we go to this error right here, we get an authorization failed. So we do not have the proper permissions to do that. So how do we do that? Well, we don't go to the logic app itself and give it permissions to do something within the logic app. What we need to do is go to our subscription level, because our logic app needs permission to our subscription. So that's why we need to come to the description level and add the roles at the subscription level for our logic app. So there's 3 roles we need to do. First one is the reader role. We select the logic app as the identity that we want to give this role to. Select that subscription, and then access that logic app and hit save. Do the same thing, but the next role will be network contributor. Oops. It's going to be a logic app, this one, and we'll hit save. The last one is managed application contributor role. So these 3 are the necessary permissions for our logic app to work. So just, I hope you didn't skip this part, because this is key for this to work. All right, so now we're ready to go and do a brute force attack on our VM. So again, our target VM is this one, and it's already running, ready to be attacked. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I use git bash for this, so I'm gonna go ahead and log into my attacker VM, and I'm just gonna do my Hydra attack. And if If you want to know how to do this brute force attack, go to my channel. I have a video that's specifically tied into this video. It teaches you how to do this part. So here we see executed a Hydra command, Hail Hydra. So this is what comes with the attacker VM. It's a software that it's a pre-installed settings for penetration testing and things like that. That's already on the Azure marketplace. You can go ahead and watch my other video on how I did that, but that's what I used. It's called Kali Linux version. But anyways, it did. I'm trying to find it here. It's attacking, and then the green means successfully found this IP address, and it was able to log in with this username and this password. And it says 1 out of 1 successfully completed. 1 valid password found. So now we have our successful brute force attack. Nothing else that needs to be done on that end. At that point, the attacker would proceed to continue to do the rest, but he cannot because we've enabled this logic app to isolate that VM. So now he may only have a minute or two with that VM available. There, I think the brute force went through, so let's take a look at what you got. So we have a successful brute force attack. Okay. So now if we go to our logic app, we'll see that the last one succeeded, and this is what it looks like. Pretty much executed everything. If you see some in red on there, it doesn't mean it failed. It just means that the result on that was false. It keeps going all the way down to an email. And so the email, I'm going to show you here in a second. So here's that email, what it will look like. And so it tells you the alert name, the VM name, the severity, time, description, even 2 links, well 3 links. So the first one is to the security center. It takes you straight to the security center with the exact brute force attack was detected. Secondly, it will have 2 links, one for Bastion. So this is where that second subnet was created, and a Bastion host was also created in order for us to do forensic investigation with Bastion rather than having to open your regular ports and then be in the same situation again where your VM is again open. And then serial console, you can also see the result from the serial console right here. So it's pretty useful. It gives you a lot of detail. You can do pretty in-depth investigation in a safe environment. I want to show you the resources that were created too. Here, if you notice, there is a new resource group created, like this one right here. And the 3 things that were created was the Bastion host, its public IP address, and the security group that goes with that subnet. All right, so let's go to resources group. And then on the very last one, again, you'll see those 3 things are automatically created there. You can go on the Logic app and edit the API calls to where rather than having this, you can have a different name and format. Again, this big string right here, this is in fact a GUI ID generated on the Logic app to make each resource individual from whatever we have in place already. So What we can do is we leave this there, but you can either add a prefix such as NSG instead of having it on the post. And so I like to do NSG, then we'll leave that there, and then whatever else you want to identify at the end. Same with the IP address and the Bastion host. All you do is just go on the Logic app and edit the API calls. Make sure you don't take this out because this is unique to the resources and it needs to be there. But you can add prefixes and postfixes. Right, now let's go to the virtual network where we have this VM. And see, now we have 2 address spaces. I only had this one first, but now I have a second one. And that's the one that was created to add the 2 additional subnets that we need for forensic investigation. So the isolate basically will move from the one that was attacked, it will move it to the isolate VM, not VM, the subnet, which has a security group with a deny all. I just want to see if I can pull it up. That security group that was attached to the subnet is actually in a deny state for all of it. So it's denying any from any inbound, and same for outbound. So with that being said, if you want to log in with Bastion host, see how Bastion host is in 2000 priority, and then allow, but however you have 1000 priority, which is deny, so you will not be able to log into your Bastion host when you're ready to do any investigation of that VM. What you'll need to do is make this a 900 priority so it'll go up, and now you can log in with your Bastion. And so back to the VNet, and if we see the subnets in the default, let's see, let's go to connected devices. In the default, there's a VM there, but it's not the one that we're doing this demo with. Now there is the target VM. That's the network interface for that target VM, and it's now in the isolate subnet. So we go subnet, and here's where the VM gets put. All right, and then lastly, if I'm not mistaken, the cleanup portion of it, because obviously you're gonna have to test this before you implement it in production. So the cleanup part is simply you go to all resources. Actually, let's go back to the VM, virtual network, subnets. Let's select, I'm trying to remember how to get to it. There we go. IP configuration. So we're on the NIC, the network interface card of the VM that was just moved. We want to move it back to our default production subnet. So we go to IP configuration, simply select that, hit save. Now that VM will be restarted and put back into that subnet. So to clean up the rest, all you gotta simply do is go to all resources, select the resources that we created in the last resource. So you want to delete Bastion, this security group that was attached to the subnet that the VM was put in, and the IP address for your Bastion. You can delete those as they will cost you money. Additionally, you won't see a resource group in the resources tab, but you can simply go to resource groups here, and you'll see that there was also one of these created here because this is what's hosting those 3. So if you want to do it this way, it's easier because you have them all in one. So you can go here, delete resource group, so put the name of it. All right, and we'll just let it finish and make sure that there's no other resources there. The subnets that were created, however, just to make sure you understand this, these subnets will stay there unless you delete them. So what I'm waiting for is for that those resources to delete, and then I can pretty much disassociate this resource, this NSG to that subnet, and then I'll be able to delete them. I'm pretty sure I can delete this one though. Yeah, we can't because it has a Bastion host IP still attached to it. So I'll just go ahead and wait for it to delete. Okay, so that was it for this video. Let's do a quick recap. We went and enabled standard tier security center, which basically allows to receive security alerts. We enabled a security alert that anytime there's a successful brute force attack, it'll trigger a workflow automation, which then will trigger a logic app. And this logic app would isolate the VM that was attacked into a separate subnet, lock down that VM with a specific network security group with all deny rules. Additionally, it will create another subnet for Bastion host, which is a requirement. Bastion host has to be deploying its own subnet. Otherwise, this solution probably would have been both Bastion host and in the same subnet as the other one. And after that, we can do forensic investigation. We get an email with details about what happened. And then the main thing here is that we stop the attacker from being able to get into the VM further and exploit our information or our data. And that's it. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. I will be sure to upload more videos in the future. I'm looking for more use cases and ideas to record more videos of things that I have already done in the past. So stay tuned.